More than 1,000 Royal Navy personnel have been made redundant today, about a third of them forced to leave. It's part of the reduction in the armed forces under the Strategic Defence and Security Review that will eventually mean 60,000 military and civilian jobs go. 1,020 personnel have been selected for redundancy, a third of them compulsorily. 90% are either ratings or senior ratings. More than 80% of the 810 who applied to leave were successful. 670 in all, and the rest, some 350, are non-applicants, meaning they're being forced out. Well, in a Guardian newspaper interview today, Defence Secretary Liam Fox said part of the reason the cuts have to be so deep is that the MOD allowed costs to get out of control. Well, our correspondent James Hurst has been following developments throughout the day and is in Gosport for us this evening. James.
Matt, just over the water from here at Portsmouth Naval Base, there will have been many people called into meetings today to be told that their career with the Royal Navy is coming to an end within the year. Meetings like that have been happening at other sites right around the UK and indeed on ships deployed around the world. Now, for some, it was welcome news, but not for others. And more than 10% of people who had applied to be made redundant were told today that they have not been selected. This total of 1,020 is in fact significantly lower than the 1,600 that was suggested back in the spring. So this morning, when I spoke to the Royal Navy's head of manning, Commodore Michael Manser, I asked him why that total has fallen.
We've been very careful to only require those that are meeting the criteria that we've set in terms of the skills we no longer require. And there have been a few who have been exempt from the selection because they have been deployed in operations.
There will be a question mark in some people's mind. You have volunteers who you rejected, and yet you've made some people compulsorily redundant. Why is that?
Well, as I've mentioned about the importance of identifying the skills and being absolutely certain that the people that we are having to make redundant, which of course we don't wish to do, are only those whose skills we no longer require, and there have been, in certain cases, too many who have applied with those skills, and we haven't wanted to make all of them, and for that reason we've needed some of that skill to remain in the service.
For people in those groups who got news today that they didn't want to hear, is there an appeals process?
There is an appeals process for both those who have applied and those who have not applied, those who have applied and haven't been selected, and those who are compulsorily being made redundant. And that appeals process is clearly laid down in defence notices, and the information about that is contained in the letter that will be given to individuals today.
Might there be an opportunity to transfer jobs or even service?
There will be a few opportunities, and those again, it is quite clearly laid down where those opportunities exist, and we encourage those who might consider that they would like to apply for a transfer and to take up an opportunity either in our own service in a shortage category or in the other services where they also have shortages, and that is something that it will be explained to individuals when they get their information today.
The question in perhaps the wider public's mind, will there be any impact on operations, and will it mean those who are still in the Navy are going to be having to work harder?
Well, firstly I want to say just how much we are doing on operations at the moment, and Royal Marines, Royal Navy and the Royal Fleet Auxiliary all deployed and doing a fantastic job, and we will continue to do that. In terms of the future, we are creating a Navy that is ready for the future and will be able to operate and do that all is asked of the Navy and maintain the harmony guidelines that we have set. So for the future, where we are today, it is a very difficult day for a lot of people, and I understand that, and we're doing all we can to support the families and people involved. But in terms of operational capability, we're preparing for a future Navy that will continue to do the great job that it's doing at the moment.
Redundancy always brings uncertainty, and there are potentially more tranches to come. How do you feel this has affected morale over the last 6 months to a year?
Well, I think you only have to look at just how much people are doing and how well they're doing it, and the pride they take in protecting British security around the world. The sense that there is a problem with morale, it is a difficult time, and I think we all understand that, and uncertainty doesn't help with that. Today we've reduced some of that uncertainty. It hasn't been a good day for some people who no longer will be serving in the Navy in 6 or 12 months' time. But for the rest of the service, morale is good, and we are doing what we're being asked to do on operations.
Well, the effects of the job losses within the senior service will go much further than the 1,000 people directly made redundant today. Gosport is a town which has lost many jobs with the drawdown in the Navy, both here and across the water in Portsmouth. One person who learned today that her husband had escaped redundancy is the local MP, Caroline Dynage. And a little earlier, I asked for her feelings on today's wider redundancy announcement.
Well, of course it's upsetting. It's upsetting for everybody concerned. It's never nice to hear about job losses, but when it comes to our armed forces, people that are, literally putting their life on the line for us, it's even more upsetting. Slightly comforting in the fact that we know 2/3 of the redundancies in the Navy are voluntary, but nonetheless, every single job loss is a huge regret.
And a lot of your constituents potentially affected by this. What have they been saying to you about the waiting process for this?
Well, it's really never pleasant, is it? And whether it's a military job or whether it's a civilian job, it's never any fun to find yourself in this position. And really, we just have to do all we can to support them.
As a Conservative MP, but also one for a Navy area, you might have divided feelings. Is the government cutting too far and too fast in the armed forces?
I think we have to look at this at the backdrop. I'm not into blame politics, but we have had 12 years without any kind of strategic defence review. And therefore, we've had 12 years during which we've had 9/11, we've had Afghanistan, we've had Iraq, and we need to future-proof our defence force. We need to make sure that they have the experience and the expertise and the equipment and everything they need to be able to face the future threats to the country and the world. And so it needs to be done. Of course, it's regrettable when that involves job cuts, and one could argue that in many ways I feel that the naval service it was already pretty lean, and I have written to the Secretary of State to outline my feelings on that.
It certainly is a sad day for the senior service, and for those families directly affected by today's 1,020 job losses, potentially difficult times lie ahead. Let's speak to Kim Richardson from the Naval Families Federation. Kim, you obviously speak to a lot of people who have been directly affected. What is the feeling among people? Not unexpected news today, I suppose.
No, I think there will be some people who feel a sense of relief, actually, because it's been a long time coming. So actually knowing what it is that you've got to plan for will help them plan. So it depends who you are and how you've been affected by the envelope sort of arriving.
And of course, for some people, they didn't apply for redundancy. It will be unwelcome news. What really is the advice to people who've perhaps had a bit of a bolt out of the blue today?
I would say take your time. For those who haven't applied and actually got redundancy, they've got up to a year to actually decide how best to make use of what the service has got to offer. Make use of all of that. Ask lots of questions. If you're getting stuck with things, give us a shout and we will help you with that. But take advantage of absolutely everything the Navy's got to offer to set you up ready to go into Civvy Street.
It's almost a year since this threat of redundancy was first raised. It has been a really difficult year. There will be another tranche next year, but do people have a bit of time to breathe a sigh of relief and get back to normality now?
I don't think so. I think although this has been a long time coming, it's not finished. And I think until it is finished, there is going to be a sense of nervousness out there amongst the whole naval community. We don't know what's coming next and we don't know when. The sooner they tell us, the better we can plan, but I still think that sense of uncertainty has got some way to go yet.
Briefly, Kim, when the next tranche comes, is there anything you'd like to see done differently by the Royal Navy and the Armed Forces?
Where the Royal Navy is concerned, they've engaged with us, the Naval Families Federation, really well, and I have to say I've been impressed at the way that they have just planned, they've listened, they've taken things into account. There'll be lessons learned, and I think we will contribute to that. So families need to tell us, actually, what is it that didn't work for them, and we'll make sure that the service know about it.